to the Shadow Treasurer, Joe Hockey. Let's listen in.
He actually said that he has a plan for meetings in Australia next week and a plan for meetings in Papua New Guinea, but he actually didn't give any details on what he was going to do to make Australia better. There was nothing there that was going to address the cost of living for everyday Australians. There was nothing there to address his legacy on debt and deficit, which I'll come to in a minute. There was nothing there that was going to make life easier for small business, and there was nothing there that is going to help to create more jobs for Australians. Since Kevin Rudd was first elected, 200,000 more Australians have lost their jobs. And Mr Rudd didn't properly address that. He simply said he's going to have meetings next week. I suspect Kevin Rudd has been elected leader of the Labor Party, but he has no policies. He has no policy platform. All he has is a policy about Kevin Rudd. And he has a stunt every day, but he has no solutions. When it comes to debt and deficit, Kevin Rudd is in denial. It's a simple fact, and it's a fact, and never let it be contradicted because it is a fact. Under the Labor Party, debt has grown faster in Australia than any other time since modern records have been kept. And the fact is that Labor said the debt would not exceed $75 billion, and it has. And then they said it wouldn't exceed $200 billion, and it has. And they said it wouldn't exceed $250 billion, and it has. And then they said it wouldn't exceed $300 billion, and it will. And under Kevin Rudd, he's looking for a get-out-of-jail-free card on his legacy. Well, his legacy is more debt, more deficits, and more than 200,000 Australians unemployed than what was the case in 2007. On productivity, Kevin Rudd said in 2008 he wanted a productivity revolution. Now he says he wants a productivity group hug. This is not the way to run a country. You actually need detailed policies. Tony Abbott and I have given Australians a detailed policy program on productivity and many other things. For example, on productivity, we have a 6-point plan. It says, number one, you invest in infrastructure, such as the Gateway project here, putting a number on it, $1 billion, and similar projects in Melbourne and Sydney. Number two, we're going to have cost-benefit analysis on that infrastructure, which is hugely important. Kevin Rudd never had it on the NBN, otherwise his initial $4 billion program would not have blown out to what looks like $90 billion today. We're also going to have a focus on getting rid of red tape and green tape. Tony Abbott announced a deregulation program to cut $1 billion a year out of red and green tape. We also announced that we're going to have a one-stop shop for environmental approvals. Now, Kevin Rudd has no shame. He captured it and claims it as his own idea today, even though we've identified it as a policy priority and have done so for an extended period of time. We've also said we've got a welfare to work program, which is hugely important to increase participation. And we've got a paid parental leave program that is going to help to increase female participation in the workforce. We've also said we're not going to have more talk about industrial relations over the next few weeks. We actually have an industrial relations policy there that includes reinstating the ABCC with all of its powers and resources, together with a number of other initiatives. So actually, as you can see, we have a plan, a real plan. Kevin Rudd has lots of words, and the Australian people soon enough will see through all the bluff and bluster, all the stunts, and note that this is not a man who actually is in the business of governing. He's actually only in the business of campaigning. That's all he's good for.
Mr Hockey, this National Productivity Pact announced today by the Prime Minister, is that more, as you put it, a stunt?
Well, it's all guff. It's more Kevin Rudd rhetoric. It's more Kevin Rudd fakeness. Have a group hug on productivity after he declared when he first became Prime Minister, we need a productivity revolution. Well, in fact, he even got his figures wrong today, because productivity growth under Labor has in no way exceeded the average under the Coalition, and even on labour force productivity, one of the measures that he chose to use, our productivity performance was much better than Labor's. So quite frankly, if he can't get the facts right, you wouldn't expect him to have policies that would work. He never has, he never will.
So if he's all bluff and bluster, would you prefer a longer election date then to sort of have more of these stunts out there, or do you think he's going to go quick?
Look, I think if it's a shorter period to the election, it simply means that the electorate's going to see more of Kevin Rudd faster, which is pretty alarming. And if it's a longer election period, they're just going to see Kevin Rudd on a slower pace, but you're still going to have the same old Kevin Rudd, the same old promise, the same old rhetoric. Today, he was given a full hour to give a detailed plan on the economy. Instead, he's trying to rewrite history, and he's encouraging everyone to have a group hug, as if that's going to actually provide a solution for the challenges of the Australian economy.
Do you think it's damaged Tony Abbott for not turning up at the debate?
Not at all. We want to see Kevin Rudd's policies. We actually want to see what he promises to do. And there was nothing. There was just nothing there. I mean, it was an extraordinary performance. It was an hour of a show about nothing. And let's hope it doesn't become a mini-series.
Why then wasn't Mr Abbott there to force Kevin Rudd to offer some detail on policies rather than allowing him a full hour just to, as you put it, talk spin and no
Well,
substance?
I think the key is we want Kevin Rudd to keep talking, because it just proves yet again he's got nothing to actually deliver. He came into the leadership with nothing. All he did was he said, I'm Kevin, I'm here to help, I'll rescue you. That's not an agenda for a nation, and that's certainly not a plan to get the economy back on track. Only the coalition has a plan, and only the coalition has the determination and the resolve to deliver on a plan. Only the coalition can actually bring back trust to government. On the one hand, Kevin Rudd wants to forget his history, and on the other hand, he wants to rewrite it and pretend that it's all his work. Australians will see through this.
What do you make of the jobless figures?
Sorry?
Mr. Hockey, it's a bad day to be a Liberal in Queensland with a multi-point plan. What we've just seen today is bundled by the Queensland government. How do you respond to that?
Oh, look, there matters for the Queensland government, and the fact that Campbell Newman is strong and decisive. It's a sharp contrast to that other Queenslander in Canberra.
Do you think Kevin Rudd looked prime ministerial today during that?
Well, I'm surprised Kevin Rudd didn't take a photo of himself at the rostrum and then tweet it to the nation. He's just fake. He's just fake, and he's making promises that he can't deliver. And the fact is that, you know, a few weeks out from an election, whenever the precise date is, Mr. Rudd said nothing. He actually said nothing. He said, no, we've got some meetings next week where we'll determine the details of an agenda, but he actually said nothing. There was not a dollar of promise. There was not a commitment. There was not a timetable or an outcome that he was saying. He actually said nothing for an hour.
But if that's your view, wouldn't a debate be the ideal way to highlight that?
I think it was highlighted perfectly today. Look, I'd give Kevin Rudd an hour on primetime TV if I could, because people will see through him. The more he talks, the more stunts he has, the more people will see through him.
Mr Hockey, what about the jobless figures?
If Tony didn't want to turn up today and to debate him, would you have preferred that opportunity to?
Look, it's not about the politics of debates. It's about what you're going to do to make the nation stronger, what plan you actually have, what outcomes you'll be measured on. And I think what's happened is Kevin Rudd didn't really expect to regain the leadership of the Labor Party, and now it's become patently clear he has no policies for the Labor Party. He's trying to run a change of government agenda before the election. But the fact is, he doesn't know how to govern. He never has, he never will. Kevin Rudd was responsible for $100 million a day of debt. Kevin Rudd was responsible for 46,000 people coming by boat to Australia. Kevin Rudd is responsible for the most significant and wasteful program in Australian history that has delivered nothing but has cost lives and has cost taxpayers more than $10 billion, and that's the unlawful arrival of boat people. Kevin Rudd's responsible for that. He is the most wasteful Prime Minister in Australian history, and taxpayers will continue to pay the price.
Will you use your speech at the Queensland Media Club tomorrow as a de facto response to this?
Yep, I'll be covering a number of factors, but I'll also be pointing out that the coalition has a plan, a 6-point plan on productivity. We have a plan to reduce the size of government. We also have a plan to properly engage with Asia. And most importantly, we have a plan to get rid of the carbon tax and the mining tax. Kevin Rudd's a magician. He's not just a clown, he's a magician. He's going to get rid of the carbon tax without getting rid of the carbon tax. He's going to reduce electricity prices without getting rid of either the carbon tax or the RED scheme. That's quite an achievement. Okay,
Can
thank
I
you.
get a comment on jobless figures
Sure.
while you're here? Queensland now has the highest jobless rate of mainland Australia. Do you think that your counterparts here in Brisbane have had anything to do with that via public service?
Well, I'd
job
just
cuts?
say to you, Campbell Newman and the Coalition inherited the highest unemployment rate on the mainland. They've had to try and fix a fiscal mess that they inherited from Labor. And, you know, it's damn hard to get unemployment down when you've got an incompetent government in Canberra. As a state leader, and I've been there before at a state level, if you've got bad government in Canberra, it's damn hard to address some of the structural issues, particularly when Labor leaves a legacy of debt and deficit in your own state. Now, Queensland's been hit damn hard with a strong Australian dollar. The impact on the tourism industry, islands closing and the Barrier Reef infrastructure closing, they've been hit very hard by coal prices coming off, commodity prices, and that's not what the Queensland government's making. But I tell you what, they've actually got a plan to try and fix it, to get Queensland back on the rails. And I tell you what, there's no better person in Queensland to lead that charge than Campbell Newman.
You must also concede that 14,000.
And that is the Shadow Treasurer Joe Hockey.